So, this is actually the first time I've sat down and properly talked about Dark Souls 2, which is funny because I've spoken about this game plenty of times before. Dark Souls 2 is one of those games where the conversation never really ends. Every couple of months, you'll see somebody defending it. Then you'll see somebody saying it's the worst game from software ever made. Then you'll see somebody writing a 20-page essay explaining why it's secretly a misunderstood masterpiece. And then someone else will show up and say, no, it's just bad. It's one of those games. There are basically two camps. People who absolutely love it and people who absolutely cannot stand it. And after spending a lot of time with Dark Souls 2, I think I finally understand why that divide exists. Because I don't hate Dark Souls 2. I actually wish I liked it more. And that's the frustrating part. Before I talk about Dark Souls 2, I think I should explain where I'm coming from. Because your first Souls game matters a lot. Technically, I played Dark Souls 1 years ago, but I really don't count it. I bounced off it almost immediately. I didn't understand what I was playing. I didn't understand the genre and I didn't understand the appeal. I was just some guy running around getting killed by skeletons. So when people ask me what my first Souls game was, I always say Elden Ring. Because Elden Ring was the first one I actually completed, the first one that clicked, the first one that made me understand why people love these games. And once Elden Ring got its hooks into me, that was it. The bug bit me hard. After Elden Ring, I played Dark Souls 1, then Bloodborne, then Dark Souls 3. I haven't finished Sekiro yet. I haven't played Demon Souls. But by that point, I was fully invested in the genre. I wanted more. I wanted every Souls-like I could get my hands on. Now, you might be wondering, if I loved the genre so much, why did I skip Dark Souls 2? The answer is actually pretty simple. I had a colleague at work who was a massive Souls veteran. This guy had been playing these games for years. While I was busy learning Elden Ring, he was basically my guide. Not in the sense that he spoiled things for me, but he gave me context. He explained how the games evolved, what made them special, what each game did differently. And one of the things he told me was, skip Dark Souls 2. Not because it was impossible, not because it was broken, but because, according to him, it wasn't on the same level as the others. So, I listened. I played Dark Souls 1, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, and I just ignored Dark Souls 2 for a long time. The problem is that Souls fans never stop talking about Dark Souls 2, ever. You can go online right now and find people arguing about it. And eventually, curiosity got the better of me. Because every time somebody said the game was terrible, there would be somebody else saying, no, you're wrong, this is actually my favorite Souls game. This game does things the others don't. And after hearing that enough times, I started wondering, what if they're right? What if there's something here that everybody missed? So, eventually, I bought it. Thankfully, on a sale. And I gave it a chance. Then another chance, and then another chance. I currently have 3 characters in Dark Souls 2, I think. I've tried strength builds, dex builds, magic builds. I've genuinely tried to meet this game halfway. And every single time, I end up in the same place. I just don't enjoy playing it. Now, here's the important thing. I completely respect what Dark Souls 2 was trying to do. I really do. Because this was still early in the series. Dark Souls 1 was a huge success. And instead of simply copying Dark Souls 1, the developers actually took risks. They experimented. They changed things up. And I think that deserves credit. Because if developers never took risks, we'd never get games like Bloodborne, we'd never get Sekiro, we'd never get Elden Ring. So I respect the attempt. The problem is that a lot of those experiments just don't work for me. And it starts with the most important thing in a Souls game: movement. For me, Dark Souls 2 never feels good to control. The movement feels strange. The lock-on feels strange. The character feels strange. And in a Souls game, that's a huge problem. Because these games are built around precision. Every dodge, every attack, every roll, every mistake. The entire experience revolves around your relationship with the character. When I die in Bloodborne, I know why. When I die in Elden Ring, I know why. And when I die in Dark Souls 3, I definitely know why. Usually it's because I got greedy, or I panicked, or I misread an attack. That's part of the appeal. The game is difficult, but it feels fair. Dark Souls 2 has too many moments where I die and I immediately think, that didn't feel right. And once that feeling enters the equation, frustration starts replacing challenge. That's the biggest issue I have with it. The best way I can describe Dark Souls 2 is that it feels like it's missing the invisible hand that guides the player. And I know that sounds strange because Souls games don't hold your hand, but they're actually very good at guiding you. They just do it subtly. Take Dark Souls 1. When you arrive at Firelink Shrine, technically you can go in multiple directions, but the game quietly pushes you towards Undead Burg. The enemies are manageable, the path is visible, and the flow feels natural. You might not realize you're being guided, but you are. Dark Souls 2 doesn't have the same elegance. You get to Majula, you see multiple paths, and honestly, good luck. The game doesn't communicate progression particularly well. It doesn't communicate danger particularly well. A lot of the time, you're simply guessing, and that's where I think Dark Souls 2 lacks finesse. Then there's enemy placement, which is probably the most common criticism people have. Honestly, I understand why. Dark Souls is famous for encounter design, not enemy count, encounter design. There's a difference. The best Souls encounters feel handcrafted. Every enemy is placed for a reason. Every ambush teaches something. Every room tells a story. Dark Souls 2 often feels like somebody looked at an area and said, you know what would make this harder? 3 more enemies, sometimes 5, and sometimes 6. And instead of feeling carefully designed, it starts feeling cluttered, like difficulty through quantity rather than creativity. That's not always true. There are good encounters in Dark Souls 2, but it happens often enough that it becomes noticeable. Another thing that constantly pulls me out of the experience is how disconnected the world feels. Not mechanically, visually, geographically. You'll move from one area to another and think, how did I get here? How does this place connect to the last place? Why is it daytime there and nighttime over here? It's not a game-breaking issue, but it hurts immersion. And Souls games thrive on immersion. The world needs to feel believable, even when it's fantasy. Dark Souls 2 constantly reminds me that I'm moving between levels instead of traveling through a world. Here's the funny thing though. After everything I've said, I still don't hate Dark Souls 2 because there are moments. Moments where I see what people love about it. Majula is incredible. That music, that atmosphere, that feeling. Every time I return there, I stop for a moment. It's one of my favorite hub areas in gaming. There's something melancholic about it, something peaceful. Something that feels like the world already ended a long time ago and everyone is just waiting for the final page to turn. It's beautiful. And Dark Souls 2 has moments like that throughout the game. Moments where I completely understand why somebody would love it. And that's probably the most frustrating thing about Dark Souls 2, because I don't think it's a terrible game. If I thought it was terrible, I would have stopped after the first attempt. Instead, I've made 3 characters, I've restarted multiple times, I've kept giving it chances, because every now and then I see something that makes me think, maybe this is the run. Maybe this time it finally clicks. But it never quite gets there, and maybe that's okay. Not every game is for everybody, even within a franchise you love. At the end of the day, I understand why Dark Souls 2 has become such a controversial game. I understand why some people defend it. I understand why some people hate it. Because Dark Souls 2 isn't a bad game. It's a game full of interesting ideas. Some of those ideas work, some of them don't. But more than anything, it feels like a game searching for its identity. Dark Souls 1 established the formula. Bloodborne refined parts of it. Dark Souls 3 perfected a lot of it. And Elden Ring expanded it. Dark Souls 2 sits in this strange place between all of them, where it's trying new things, taking risks, and experimenting. And while I respect it for that, I still can't escape the feeling that it's missing that thing that makes the other Souls games feel so special. That invisible master behind the curtain. The one gently guiding the player without them ever realizing. Dark Souls 2 has the ideas, it has the atmosphere, it has the ambition. But for me, it never quite has the finesse. And that's why after 3 separate attempts, I still find myself wishing I liked it more than I actually do.